stat and was just kind of curious. There's 65 people that were on the World Championship team this past year in Budapest that did not make the Olympic team this year, which is it's the nature of the beast. The United States is no doubt the hardest team to make. I mean, you have people, Grant Holloways and Ry Benjamins and everything else. They go in press conferences and they talk and they communicate about, the pinnacle of our sport for us is the Olympic trials above the Olympics, just because of how competitive it is. So it's like, the reality is there's always going to be as much heartbreak as there is, just success and glory in our sport and as a U.S. athlete. And that's just kind of the nature of our beast that we have to deal with, that we have to encounter. And that's what makes making a team so much more fulfilling, because we know that we've defeated all those things that come with our sport,
Yeah, it's different for me. I mean, it's a different feeling, because I mean, I made a team out of 2015 as a sophomore in college. I got on the team due to like politics with Nick Simmons and all that, and made semifinals and had a taste of it. And then 2016, was a huge high point of my career. I was very young, and I tasted what it felt like to stand on a podium in Olympic Games, and I wanted it again. Enjoy what you do. The whole like mentality I had of was it a waste of what I did and all that stuff it hasn't crept in, and I've kept that out this time and kind of just dealt with it, rolled with the punches, and ready for the next challenge that whatever running brings on.
For me, it's a little bit of both, hungry and kind of like, okay, I understand I did have some setbacks this season.
You were like a young kid, man. And Kyle, I think similar to you, like, you're a young man in this game. And Clayton, I think that's such an interesting story to kind of, you had that success. And I look back to Clayton at, was it Worlds last year? Where you did, was it Worlds or USA's where you won? It was USA's, right?
Yeah, well, not last year. Oh no, I was third last year at USA.
So which was the year where you won and everyone thought whoever else was going to
Trials 2021. Trials in 2021 was when it was like, oh, can he even make the team? And in my head leading into it, it was like I just was biding my time for the one meet, because that's like I said, I tasted it young, and it became my career. How I've treated it has become an all or nothing game. It's like I don't run this sport to run here or there, okay, and kind of put together like this like portfolio of a season. It's like I've kind of just put all my eggs in one basket of making world finals and making Olympic finals and making teams. Like that's kind of like where I've put my focus. And so everything else for me is like to get ready for that. Like there's no, oh, I'm going to go try to run fast here. It's like, I'm going to try to make every team I can. That was always my goal, make every world final and Olympic final I can. That was where I set my sights. And it's, like I said, double-edged sword to live. But trials in 21 is where there was a lot of predictions of if I could even make the team. And then it was like a whole different story after.
I mean, that was one of those moments that was like, because they didn't even show you on camera. Like, did you see that footage?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think they mentioned it until like 30 meters to go.
We were just like, screaming at the televisions, like, what are they doing? Like, he won. They're not even showing him. It was bizarre. But I did want to, because I never talked to you about that. I did want to ask you about that, Clayton. One of the things about you guys that I've had, you guys give us so much time and energy and effort when in focus for us when we're out shooting with you guys, and I've come to appreciate all the little moments, all the those little moments of you guys grinding and out there and alone, and let's just talk for a minute, kind of go around the horn again a minute for like the grind. Talk about the grind of what it's like to be, a world-class athlete.
I'll say it's a lot of sacrifices you have to make. Like, especially being young in this society, you want to go out, have fun, and do things like that. But you can't do that, especially when you have a goal in mind of being on the Olympic team or being on a world championship team or winning NCAAs. But just going out there and giving it your all every day, even if it's in a weight room. Because me personally, I hate the weight room. So in the weight room, giving it your all. People don't think about treatment, so make sure you're getting the correct treatment, sleep, hydration, um, just mental health, and getting your mind correctly and right. People don't think about that, so I just think that is my biggest thing. My biggest struggle is just getting my mind right and eating right and getting enough sleep, and that's where my grind come in. And on the track, I got it. I can go out there and do whatever workout coach need me to do or want me to do, but outside of the track, doing the things that you need, that's where my biggest grind and biggest struggle come in.
For me, I'd probably have to say where my grind probably comes in is just like knowing and embracing that I like am in the moment. You know, I've always been a person, you know, especially still being 24 years old, where it's like, okay, you know, something doesn't happen. You're like, okay, you got more time. Your time hasn't come yet. You're young, right? It's like, but I've grinded so hard for this moment and I'm here. I've earned my right. So it's like, in a sense, I still have that right to be upset. So it's like my grind comes from just fulfilling that, like, I guess that sense of satisfaction, knowing that it's like, okay, I am still young, but I did it. You know, it's like the age is nothing but a number for me in this sport. You know, there's people, you got guys like Quincy Wilson, 15 years old, making himself an Olympic team. And you know, I forget her name, but the woman, the discus thrower from Paris, I think she's 45, turns 44, just did. You know, it's such a wide range of people there. So the conversation of age isn't always like, you know, that you just want to be out of the conversation. So just that grind of knowing that age isn't anything for me, but knowing that I can succeed no matter how old, how young, or, you know, just makes everything more fun for me. And ultimately, it allows me to work harder because ultimately I want to be out there doing decathlons, 36, 37 years old, try to make wherever the meet will be in 2036, you know. So I missed out on one Olympic team and making 3, so I still want to check off 3 off my list. So that means I got to go to 2036. That's what I'm gonna do. So,
hey Clayton, I think we're getting some feedback or something from your when you took your headphones off. Wasn't that what it was, guys? I don't know if you're an IT tech guy, Justin, but you know. maybe you or Kyle can figure this out. We don't know. We always have to have Clayton. We always have to have some slight glitch.
Is that better?
Oh, it's way better.
Yes.
Yeah.
My AirPods died, so
Clayton, talk to us about that. And you know, you've been at this grind, and you're one of the hardest working guys that I've ever met. And give us that veteran take on it.
I mean, I think those two guys hit a lot of points that are, you know, sacrifice, you know, the grind, like day in and day out. But I think like a lot of people don't understand is like they see the competitive up and downs, like the competitions, and you know, us running well or competing well, and when we compete well and we compete bad, and you know, grinding through that ebbs and flows. But a lot of people don't see that training like up and down. Like there's workouts that don't go as planned. Like you could be 2-3 weeks out from the biggest meet of the year, and you have a workout, and you just look at coach, and you're like I've had many of times where I just look at coach and go, how the hell am I going to do this in 2 weeks? Like, you know, you get that key indicator day and you're just like, you finish it and you're just like for us, like a lot of times like run a 500 or 600 or, you know, doing split 800s or something like that, where it's like you're running race pace for part of the distance and you get done and you're just like, I literally have to do that like double the length with no rest. And I just struggled to do it with like 3 minutes rest. Like how in the world am I going to pull this together in 2 weeks? And, you know, you deal with those types of things, or you just have an off day. You know, you just have a day where you wake up and the workout doesn't go as planned, and, you know, your mind's not in it, your body's not in it, you know, you're struggling with maybe a little minor injury, and you've got to figure out how to grind your way through it and get back to some positiveness and get back to, you know, a good day, and just kind of stack those good days on top of each other. And for every 10 good days, you're going to have a couple bad days to fight through. And I think a lot of people don't see that from us because we don't compete nearly as much as any professional athlete does. And I think we talked about this the other night. Like we compete so
for as many as we train, we compete so little. And so the public and the fans see such a small perspective of what we go through and the ups and downs and the grinds that we do.
Yeah, it was like when we did that show with Kenny Mayne and John Anderson, that kind of recap show with American Track League, and Kenny was like, "So do you train at all?" And it's like, yeah,
I would love if we didn't have to train. I would love it if we could just run. If I could run, if there were 7 days in a week, if I could race 2 days a week, if I could do like a workout of too hard and then the other couple of days were just like rest days, I would be all about it. If I didn't have to do like basic training days where it's just like kind of like monotonous training just to kind of keep things moving, I would be all about it.
Clayton, all that's going to take is you getting together with the other top guys and go, "Hey, I got a new theory here. If we all just slow it down a little bit." I'm going to bring Rob Biacco on in a second here. So, Rob, if you want to kind of click in, but while we're doing that, and he's going to talk a little Taekwondo for a couple of minutes, and we're going to flip back into talking track. Cool. But Kyle, why in the world would you do all of those events? What is wrong with you?
Okay, I get that question all the time, and here's the thing: I actually literally did not choose to do decathlon. Like, people say you don't choose the decathlon chooses you. That's literally it. Like, I grew up from the time I started track at like 7 till I was about like 14, 15 years old. I was doing like the sprints, 100, 200, 400, you know how kids do. And I started high jumping or whatever when I was about like 12, just because it was fun. I could jump pretty well and everything else. I dunked by the time I was 13 or something like that. So I could jump, and being 6 feet by the time I was in 8th grade, I was cool. I was good. Justin, don't shake your head. It's all right. You can go ahead and hype, but you good. But I was actually at a district meet, and one of the officials came up to me. He was like, "You've been doing all these events." He's like, "Why don't you try the pentathlon?" At the time, I was like, "I have no idea what that is." So in 2 weeks, I had to learn or get my mind ready to run a 1500, throw shot put, do long jump. And then from there, it's like I went qualified for Junior Olympics that summer, finished 5th place at Junior Olympics. And I just kind of was like, okay, let's start working on the decathlon now. I enjoyed it. So from there, I just kind of took it and ran with it. And I think I just kind of like the individuality of it. There's not too many people, for one, that do decathlons or really, are crazy enough to intrigue themselves enough to want to do it. But I think also it just allows me to relate and really connect with everybody in the track and field realm. I throw, I run, I jump, sprint, distance, everything. So I can kind of relate and feel what every other athlete has felt, and I think for me, being who I am and in a leadership role that I like to take on, I think that helps me grow as a young athlete and kind of understand the sport more, just because I can relate with a lot of people.
That's cool. It's always the same thing on the show. Every time I learn something, I think we're doing a great show. Like, I never had that perspective of you can relate with all of these other athletes, which is kind of cool. You can walk up to anyone at the track.
Yeah, pretty much.
Chatting it up.
Yeah. I think for me, it also allows me to learn more, because I just don't fear learning about a certain event, because ultimately I do it or am in an event in that sort of realm. So it just kind of makes everything more comfortable for me when it comes to learning stuff.
Yeah. So you know how we do this. We don't have any smooth transitions. We just, I just pop Rob right into the show. So to give you guys, everyone meet Rob Biacco, Justin.
Hello, how are you?
Hey.
So
Crashing
Rob,
the track party. Crashing the track party.
You're just crashing it. So Rob and I have known each other for so long. It's kind of stupid. I don't know. It's like 32 years or something. I don't know. It's a big number. And Rob is known. He owns an ad agency in Brooklyn called the BAM Connection. They're amazing. One of the great, kind of boutique ad agencies. Rob has worked on the biggest accounts all over the world before he started his company. And him and I have had a lot of good laughs over the years. And but one of the things that I noticed about Rob very early on is he was doing all these kind of martial arts. I don't know if that's how we characterize it, Rob, but he's been doing it his entire life. And so Taekwondo is one of the areas, and maybe I'll just turn it over to you, Rob. Tell us, who you are, what you do in that world, and talk to us a little bit about Taekwondo.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, like Bob said, I own an ad agency, so that's my job, right? Martial arts is, I call it my jobby. It's like a hobby, but it's partly a job, so it's kind of my jobby. But I've been doing it for 40 years. So I'm a 4th degree black belt in Taekwondo. I'm also going for my black belt in Krav Maga in a couple of weeks, hopefully. But I've trained with some of the top Taekwondo masters in the world. I have a better pedigree in Taekwondo than I do in my real job. I trained with 2 of the guys that left Korea in 1960 to bring Taekwondo to the world, right? Because Taekwondo is a relatively new established art. It was established in 1955 based on a lot of ancient things. But after, not to get into politics, but after the Second World War, Japan had occupied Korea and they kicked Japan out. And then the Koreans were like, we're going to make Korean stuff. We're going to make this thing Taekwondo. It's super karate. We're going to make it better than, Japanese karate. So that's kind of how it all came about in 1955.
This is all right. So I want to go around to the group. So who has the first question for Rob before we kind of got a few things we want to run down, but have you guys ever heard of Taekwondo? Have you ever done it? What are your questions that are coming up already?
I've never really done it. I mean, I've had some form, or I've kind of learned a little bit of some forms, in school and stuff. I went to a private school in Philadelphia area, so learned some forms of martial arts, capoeira and such. But just the individuality of Taekwondo and what really got you into that. You said you've been doing it or practicing it for so long. What really got you into that?
Clearly there's probably 3 things: the physicalness of it and the staying in shape. I'm 60 years old, so I still go and I spar with guys your age, all the time. So, that keeps you on my toes and, whatever. But the mental part of it, big time, right? I'm actually working on a blog right now, or a thing that I'm writing, transferring all of my martial arts learning into my business. And how you guys were talking about the grind before. I'm not elitely talented, but I'm elitely dedicated. I'm not as talented as you guys are, but 40 years I've been grinding it. I turned the car when I used to live upstate. I turned the car towards the gym, not to the bar. I'd go and train 3-4 times a week. So I wanted to do that. So all that perseverance, all that kind of mental fortitude is what really makes me stay with it and want to do it. So I think it gives you an edge in life, when you got that kind of, wherever you go, you guys are top athletes and you got that kind of attitude. You walk into another room, you got an attitude that you're bringing to the room that other people aren't bringing to the room. And then self-defense, got to go on the subway every day.
I mean, yeah.
The many subway rides where I wish I knew any form of that more. I guess my question is very back to simple. You kind of answered it a little bit with the history a little bit. But I'm hopefully not the only one. What is the difference between karate, Taekwondo, and kind of break down the mixture of martial arts and then connect it to the Olympics now, because there's separate, I guess, specialties within it, right? Within the Olympics and the weight classes, or the kind of distinction between the two, and then how does it apply to the Olympics in the different categories there?
Yeah, I mean, the first distinction is always kind of country of origin, right? Like karate is Japanese and Kung Fu is Chinese. Taekwondo is Korean, like I was getting at before. It was when the Japanese left and the Koreans kind of established Taekwondo. I mean, it means foot, fist, way. I have it tattooed on my tattoos of it, but that's what it means in Korean is foot, fist, way. It's actually a very funny movie with Danny McBride called Foot, Fist, Way. I recommend it. But that's one of the big things. And then the other big thing is kicking. Right, Taekwondo is, like I said before, they call it super karate back in the 70s and 80s because it's really about spinning, jumping, flying, kicking, a little more flashy. That's how the Koreans wanted to make it when they created it. A lot of karate is very grounded and strong and, to the ground. When you're doing Taekwondo, you got to be very light on your feet. What makes you a good Taekwondo person, you'll see in the Olympics. The one guy that's like the top American guy, CJ Nicholas, light on your feet, fast. They're very skippy the way they move. Like you watch a boxer, they're kind of planted because you want to really throw some leverage into your punch. If you plant your legs, the time it takes you to get off that plant, raise your leg and throw a kick, the guy's, in a taxi gone, so you got to be light on your feet so you can fly those kicks out a lot faster. I don't know if that answered it exactly, but
yeah.
That's good. We're already getting knowledge there, Clayton. I like that.
Man,
more knowledge than I had 5 minutes ago. That's for sure.
There's no punching to the face in Olympic Taekwondo. Right? There's 2 types of Taekwondo. There's ITF, WTF. The Olympics is WTF. which started in the 70s. The original one from 55 was ITF. But in the Olympics, you cannot punch to the face, right? You can punch to the body, kick to the body, kick to the face. So you get higher points for more dramatic and spectacular kicks to the face. So it goes 1 point, 2 point, 3 points. So it's really promoting that kind of, spinning, jumping, flying stuff. You get rewarded more points for that.
We should have track races where we mix Taekwondo and track. 100 meters of Taekwondo.
When you guys running by, you kick them, right?
We talked about how physical it gets out there, Clay.
That's what I'm saying. I should learn Taekwondo for the next Olympic trials.
Light on your feet. Light on your feet.
There you go. Yeah. You can't if you plant, like Muhammad Ali used to say, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. When he floated, he was just moving. When he stung, he was grounded, and he had like leverage. And that's how if you lock your feet down, it's very hard to kick. You're always on one leg. Right? Think about it. Every time you're kicking, you're on one leg the whole time.
Crazy.
I got a quick question. What type of shape do you have to be to do Taekwondo? Because I know it's different. You got to be in different type of shapes to do sprints, distance, decathletes. They have to be in like all kind of different shapes. So what kind of shape do you need to be to do it?
I mean, it's a little more sprinty than long distancey, I guess, right? Because you're not fighting for 28 minutes. You're fighting for 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes. But that alone, fighting. I've done a lot of sports in my life, right? I played baseball in college, played soccer, I did a lot of things. When someone's trying, every other sport, the goal is to score a point, to get a touchdown, to cross the line first. In martial arts, the goal is to punch the other guy in the face and kick him in the face. That adds a layer of pressure that I've never had in another sport, because you can physically get like punched in the face, kicked in the face, and hurt. So you're a little more, your energy is a little higher, and it does exhaust you a little faster, but it is more of a sprint-like thing than a longer distance thing, because the fights don't last that long.
So is that training for Taekwondo, do you pretty much train Taekwondo, or do you, what sort of other types of training do you enjoy to do to keep in shape? Are you like a biker? I feel like climbing would make me, what's your sort of step away from Taekwondo to stay in shape?
Yeah. I mean, I have my other job, right? Unfortunately, I don't get to dedicate my whole life to doing that thing. I would love that, but that's long past. So, I don't have hours and hours. I dedicate a lot of my time to martial arts. So that is my one hobby that eats all my time. But the other thing I would say is I do a lot of working out in terms of body workouts, push-ups, things like that. I do sit-ups, push-ups. I lift a little bit of weights, but that's the other thing I do all the time. I'm always doing push-ups, sit-ups, physical, using my own body weight. It's a little better when you get older. You put a big heavy weight on there and you pull something.
So one of my other kind of, I have an ulterior motive as well, to bring Rob in and try to get some sponsors, some of his clients, to start spending some money with world's greatest athletes, and maybe a little live stream show. So we all have to have a few agendas in life, and that that's part of it, as Rob already knows. Yeah. Kyle looks like he's having some technical problems. Rob, thanks for coming on, man. We're gonna bounce you out and get back to talking track.
Back to track. Thanks for letting me crash for 2 minutes with the Taekwondo story.
Thank you, man.
Good to meet you guys. I get a lot of respect for how great athletes you guys are. Thank you for having me on.
That's kind of cool. I think I kind of like that idea of bringing in one other sport for a couple of minutes here and there. I really want to get Kyle back on here. I don't know what's going on. Kyle, if you can hear me, I think I'm going to try to bounce you out and have you come back in. So I'm gonna send him off. But where do we want to go with this, Justin? I'm going to toss it to you on because I got a ton of ideas of where I want to go, but I want to let you guys kind of drive the show here a little bit.
Let's talk about the controversy of leaving Quincy off the relay. Let's talk about that. Like, what do you guys think about that?
Well, you cut out. What was the question again?
I'm gonna let the athletes answer this first.
The young phenom Quincy is left off the mixed relay. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, we talk about it a lot. It's politics in the sport. I mean,
Yes.
I understand. You've seen guys all the time, or guys or women. They go to Olympic games and world championship teams and everything, and they just don't run. It's kind of the politics of the sport. The like Clayton said, him and Vernon have been on the circuit for a good amount of time. So people know that they're reliable. In a sense, they know what you're going to get out of them. Whereas, Quincy's 16. He could, nerves could potentially get to him. I don't think he's that type of cat, though. I think he's a very cool-headed dude, and he would have produced super, super well. But I think the coaches also build relationship with these athletes that have been on teams in past, and they kind of feel comfortable with them on there. So I think it's more about a comfortability thing than anything else. But hopefully I get to see him run. I would love to see him out there, see him in that kit, and get
most definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough because you take pure speed in an open 400 versus relay experience, and I mean I think a lot of people from the surface maybe think like, oh, there's no, a 4x4 is a pretty easy relay when it's. I mean, I think Justin could say it's not an easy relay. I mean, look at mixed relay getting DQ'd not too long ago. I mean, and we're just talking about the lines. Like, there's an experience factor that you can't do. And I mean, I get he's probably run some he's run some high school 4x4s, but like Kyle said, stepping into the track of an Olympic Games, World Championships, it's a different beast. Like, Olympic trials is cool and all. Like, we talk about how big it is, but stepping into an Olympic circle, a purple track, in front of millions of people watching, like, there's a big moment to that. And guys like Vernon and Bryce are hard to say, hey, like, step aside, like, let this kid run. Like, yeah, he's maybe run a slightly bit faster than you, but like, it's hard to step away from a guy like Vernon or Bryce who have that Olympic and World Championship experience, who have stepped in that ring before and dealt with it. And, the call room's different. The timing's different. You guys know how early you get called into those relays. Like, you're sitting around for a long time. Like, there's an experience factor of time and warm-ups and heats and understanding the fact you're going to be underneath for a long time. Like, all these factors that, like, experience is just, you can't just buy that. Like, a couple tenths of a second versus experiences, I think it's probably, along with the politics side of things, is probably what the decision came down to. Is like, do we take the kid a couple tenths faster, or do we take somebody who has experience of the process and going through this and all of the things that come with a massive opportunity like it is, like with the Olympic Games is.
Hey guys, first of all, I love Justin. You kind of stirred it up here a little bit, because I'm going to go back in and drop, or Quincy, if you can pull up the clip, the D2 pre-recorded clip that we did. I asked D2, because he's one of the relay coaches. I asked him, how do you coach a relay team? So once this clip comes up, remember, you control the volume. Everybody controls the volume here as well, anyone viewing. So when it pops up, just unmute D2. But this was a couple days before the relay team.
Well, I mean, it's in different aspects, because we look at the leg-based program. Obviously, the United States can be a complicated program to coach because of all the talent we have, and unfortunately, we don't get everyone that's as good as they are here. It doesn't get an opportunity because our trials are so complex, and you take it in each segment, and you actually have to coach athletes up. And I think coaching a relay is like coaching any athlete, period. You coach the athlete and not the event. And that's the most important aspect of it. And people look at it pretty much the other way around. And so when you look at it as an event aspect, that's what makes it more difficult. But if you coach the athlete, you give each one of them an opportunity to be the best they can, and obviously point out all of their efficiencies as well as deficiencies, and try to make the necessary adjustments in time for competition, which is really difficult because our athletes are typically in individual events and sometimes multiple events, which can make it very difficult to get them together at one time throughout the course of the year.
How do you coach a relay team? So what do you guys make of what D2 was saying there? And I know he said it later. He goes, I want to come back on the show after. So maybe you can talk a little more freely. But what do you guys make of what he's saying there?
I kind of agree to it to an extent, as far as you coach the athlete and not the event. But I'm just gonna go back to Quincy, man. I just wanted to see him run. I want them to give him an opportunity to go out there and just show the world what great athlete he is, what a great young man he is. But I really want to see him run. Hopefully they'll put him on the prelims in the 4x4. But I'm gonna go back to I just really want to see him run.
The jumping around a little bit more here, guys. I'd love to, Clayton, talk about the concept of what it takes to be the greatest a little bit, and maybe, do you want to take that question, Clayton, and turn it back around to the guys? Because I know you and I have already talked about it once, but maybe put that question into your words a little bit, about what it takes to be the greatest.
Yeah, I think we talked. I mean, I think when we talked about it earlier about the grind and the hustle, and I think a lot of people, there was a bit of the answer of like, you and I both kind of answered it with that to start. Like, that's what it takes to be the greatest. Like, that's the black and white like process to, be the greatest. But we also talked about the fact of like, being the greatest is almost like an ambiguous term of like, what is the greatest? Like, there's obviously GOATs and there's obviously world records and, most Olympic medals and stuff like that. It's the greatest. But like, you kind of have an ambiguous, like, what's the greatest? Like, is it achieving goals? Is it setting goals and, chasing those? And like how do you guys view you being the greatest? Like, how do you guys view you being the greatest you can be? Because obviously the three of us in the room here, like, to be blunt, is like, to me to be the greatest 800-meter runner of all time is probably not going to happen in my career. Like, it's just like at a point where it's like, but being the greatest that I could be, like who I want to be and who I set the goals to be is like kind of what we've got to. So like, curious how you guys look at that and like how you achieve to be the greatest possible, Kyle you can be and Justin you can be and chase those, your own personal greatness.
Yeah, I think how you kind of phrase some of your words. You went from, at the start, I was like, what is the greatest to the greatest you can be? And I think that's how I look at it. I at the beginning of the season, I sit down and I set goals for myself, and my goals aren't like just baby goals. I always set the biggest goals possible for myself. And, I think when I work to achieve those, and when I really understand what my goals are and what I want them to be for myself, and I achieve those goals, it's like, that's me being the greatest that I can be. But then I also like fall upon greatness, and I've always kind of lived by this quote. It's like, shoot, for something beyond the stars, then when you fall and you fail, you still land upon greatness. I mean, you understand what I'm saying? It's like, you got to shoot for something so big that not even your competitors can comprehend that even if you fail in your sense, you still land higher than other people have ever fathomed, because it's like you're shooting for something way bigger than somebody else can comprehend. So it's just like, for me, it's like out thinking my competitors to be in a position where it's like, even if I don't succeed to my standards, my success is greater than everybody else's standards. So that for me, it's more of a mental battle than a physical battle. And like we were kind of talking about earlier with the grind, it's like, it's the tough reality of it is that sometimes you're not going to succeed the way you want to, you know what I mean? And it's just kind of that process, that grind. You got to continue to keep working, whether something steers you off that course. It's like, you can continue to grind, continue to work. Like, in my case, there's another year, all goes well. We don't have another COVID or something like that. We will see another year, hopefully and prayerfully. So, it's just about that grind, but mentally just being in a position where it's like, that your best is just the best. And I think that's, for me, what being the greatest is and what I'm striving for.
That's pretty good. Hate that I gotta go behind you. For me, just I'll say you won't know you're the greatest to my standards is until you I'm having a brain fart. I'm sorry. You won't know I don't know what's going on right now. For me, being the greatest is knowing when you face adversity, you can still get back up. Even when you're having a hard workout, you telling yourself, I don't tell myself this, but sometimes people tell themselves I can't do it, I'm tired or whatever, but not listening to those voices in your head and continue to get back on that line and give it your all that next rep, even when you're losing a race and you're not finishing where you want to finish, just getting back up and going back to practice and working hard and hard and hard to get to where you want to be. That's how I feel is you being your greatest.
You know, this is why I identify with you guys so much, man. I named the company World's Greatest for a reason, and I didn't name it that as a destination, right? I named it that as for the journey, and it's a lot of what you said, Clayton. Is I was getting chills when you were saying that because it's literally the best version of what I can be and what we do as a company, but it really is identifying people who are kind of chasing greatness. And it doesn't matter what level you're at. To me, obviously, we don't have everyone. We're not just like reaching out for everyone that has the gold medal. Like that's not why we built the company. And I think it's inspiring to chase greatness. It's inspiring to be there on the journey of it. And that to me is where the stories are, right? Once you guys are on the podium, right, Clayton, and tears are coming out of your eyes and you're trying to hold them back and all that stuff at the Olympics, or on the world stage that like you guys have done, you're not crying for your country. You're crying for, probably out of relief. That's what a lot of you guys tend to say. But that emotion of all the work finally has, paid off, right? I mean, is that, I mean, let's touch on that for a second. Like, is what's that emotion going through your minds when you guys have won, when you guys have medaled, when you've, kind of done the thing that you wanted to do that day? What is that emotion all about?
I'll touch on it from when I actually scored 66-39 indoors two seasons ago. The emotion, there was so much to it, experiencing the highs and lows of the season before, that the past season I'd scored 87-20, broke the outdoor collegiate record. And then kind of had a decline from the meets after that and dealt with some injuries. And what a lot of people actually don't know is the Monday before I competed in the heptathlon at indoor nationals, I sprained my wrist pretty bad and almost broke it. My right wrist, my shot put hand and everything else. So the week leading up to nationals, I didn't practice. I didn't do any touch-ups, no real shakeouts, warm-ups, anything that whole week, just because my wrist and my hand were 2-3 times the size. And it's like you face that adversity. It's standing right in front of you and you're like, this is a big meet, but at the same time, you're starting to doubt yourself. You're like, can I do this? Can I come back from this? And then to see something so great happen at the end of it, it's like, that's where my tears came from. The adversity that I faced and just seeing that I'm stronger than whatever could stand in front of me or tried to stand in front of me. It's like in that moment, it's like I told myself before the meet too, I was like, yeah, I'm if I win, all goes well, there won't be any tears. I'll be happy. I'll be running around the track some more. But it's like, I'm not gonna cry. And I think I cried the most I ever had in my life. It's the emotion encapsulates and overtakes you more than you could even think. And just thinking about all that stuff is like, a week ago, I was like, I don't know if I can compete. And now I have the second best score in world history behind the great Ashton Eaton. It's like, it's almost leaves me speechless in this moment outside of what I just said. But the feelings, they come from anything. And I mean, everybody's story is different. Everybody, what they face is different and what they have. And it might not even come from a negative feeling. There might just be, great things that you've done in practice. And it's like, okay, it's a sigh of relief or a cry or tear of relief. It's like, okay, what I've been doing in practice actually happened in this moment, and it's that good feeling of release. It's just like a release of energy in that moment. So it's always a great feeling to feel that, and, if you miss out on something, I think those moments make it even more rewarding when you feel that relief and that feeling and that energy.
Pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to go behind. He always has something great to say. Me personally, it doesn't hit me until like either weeks later or a couple days later. But last year when we brought back those gold medals in Budapest, just me coming home and seeing how happy my parents were and happy my grandparents were, and how they started like showing so much emotion, and it brought me to be emotional. It was just like, dang, I did all that, and I'm making them so proud and so happy just to say that that's my son or that's my grandson, or even my little cousins. They look up to me. I never thought that anybody would ever look up to me. They look up to me. They want to be like me. So just seeing that within my tight knit community, people looking up to me and showing so much love, that makes me feel good. It makes me joyful and show that much emotion.
Very cool. Very cool. How about you, Clayton?
Yeah, I mean, they hit it. I mean, there's so many stories you don't know. And like I said, like I mentioned earlier, like the fans and public have such a small glimpse of like what we go through. And our media attention is so much smaller than other professional sports. Our public spotlight is so much smaller. Like, you know, there's no pressers for us to talk about before meet. There's no, you don't put out there, I sprained my wrist a week before the meet. Like any other sport, there's an injury report, before a major game. Like the Super Bowl, going into Super Bowl, which would be our Super Bowl award indoors or U.S. indoors, like they would know like he sprained his wrist, like, and then everybody would be talking about it on the broadcast, and then he'd be going through these motions on the podium and everything in the mix zone, and everybody to understand like why he's going through it. Like in 2021, I had a grade 2 hamstring strain 9 days before the final rep of the final workout before that 2021 Olympic trials. I had a grade 2 hamstring. I had, everything you possibly could do. I didn't exactly what Kyle did. I didn't run for like until a day and a half before the prelim. I had no idea. There's text between my wife before semifinals where I strained it again in the semifinal before the race that I don't know if I can do this. I told my agent on the start line, I don't know if I can even run. I haven't done a stride yet before the semifinal. Like there's so many stories that people don't know behind the scenes, and people see the stories through our emotions after the race. They might not hear the stories or see the stories maybe necessarily all the time, but I feel like that emotion shows what we go through behind closed doors that people don't know about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's so much, and we've done a bunch of kind of all access content, and which I love, and I want to do a lot more of, because that people don't understand what's going on. So whether it's, I remember Devin Allen, at World the year that they ended up getting DQ'd, which at the start of the week when we met him, he was just kind of limping around, and I'm like, what is going on, man? And he's just like, yep, the old hammy and all that. So, and by day 2, they had 2 physios going, and they were just working him over. And I think it wasn't until Wednesday or Thursday that he's like, I'm actually kind of feeling okay. And then he got through that first heat, and I don't know if you guys remember where before he went out from the warm up check to the, I think it was in the semis, he came running out, and we're running behind him with the cameras, and his physio's out there because they wouldn't let her in because you only get like one coach, right, or something like that, one extra person to come in. So she's like doing some wrap on his legs, like whatever, some spike wrap thing, and then he just goes running back down, runs a few, gives her the thumbs up, runs into the stadium, gets through the heat. But it's like the stuff that you guys go through that nobody sees to do the things that you do is amazing. Like, it's just amazing. And that to me is kind of the story behind the story, which is way more interesting, I think, than the regular story. So, Clayton, Justin, we're kind of like up on time. I don't mind going over a minute or two. But
yeah, I got one question, and then we can wrap it up. I got one question. Yeah. Tomorrow night's women's fastest, women's fastest race, fastest woman in the world race. You have a semifinal, heat 2. I don't know if anybody's seen that. You have Shelly Ann, Julian, and Sha'Carri all in the same heat right next to each other. Oh. Top 2 automatically advance. You get the next 2 fastest on time. My question is...
Sha'Carri, Shelly Ann, and who?
Julian, our fastest women, relatively fastest women in the world, are in the same semifinal heat tomorrow night. So, who wins? Who is the fastest woman in the world? Or who is your surprise take for the gold medal tomorrow night?
Oof.
rapid fire because we're like you said, we're backed up against time. So you got to go quick with it. It's just as quick as they are tomorrow night.
Shakira's winning. She's winning. USA.
I think so too. I think she's just super. She got her head on her shoulders right now. I think she knows what's up. I would love to see like a sleeper like Julian. She's a crazy grinder, and just getting to know her a little bit when I was out at the Bowerman presentation and everything. She's a super cool, super nice girl. So I would love to see her come through in a sleeper, but I think Sha'Carri got this one in the bag.
Hey, I said it before, Clayton. Shelly Ann is my pick.
I would love to see the US win. Obviously, I'd love to see Sha'Carri win and the story and respect Sha'Carri, but it's hard to go against. We talk about the greatest. It's hard to go against one of the greatest ever to do it, ever to step foot on the track is Shelly Ann, and
that's true.
The
big
Rocket,
big
the
game player,
Rockets,
right?
She's coming into form in the right time. I mean, experience, man, pays in the Olympic Games. So we'll see. It'll be an incredible race tomorrow night.
It'll be exciting, very exciting.
Yes.
So much going on, right? I mean, so much going on in these next few days. It's insane because shot put finals are tomorrow too, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I think they said we got 16 sessions of track and field. I don't know if anybody watched the 10K final, and that kicks us off with a 10K. If a 10K can be exciting, there's a lot of excitement left in the Olympic Games sessions.
Yeah,
that is a good point. That's a good point. I mean, yeah, I think I'm going to have like 8 screens going at the Ciosic household. It'll be like the computer and the TV. And
the gold zone on Peacock is so cool to watch. The gold zone is where it's at.
It is where it's at. Hey, Clayton and guys, I wanted to make my one big shout out before we kind of do the real shout outs from you guys. So we have a great distribution deal locked in with the folks at VIZIO. So you kind of see that we're having VIZIO take over a little bit here. They're actually going to be doing a lot of promotion for us over the next, basically through the end of the Olympics. So a big shout out to the team there because they've done a great job, like quickly turning around content. So you can see the Science of Movement. You can see that show there. You can see Superhuman Stories, that series. Those are like the 2 featured. But you also can see all of our other content. So Clayton, your Super Doc is in there as well. So if you have a VIZIO TV. So that's why we left this little blurb on the lower left so you can kind of see how to find the content. But big shout out to VIZIO. It's a big step for us. So thanks to those guys. So, Clayton, do you want to handle the shout outs?
Yes,
in our awkward end
here. So, yeah, make sure, obviously, the 3 of us, Kyle, Justin, and myself, all on social medias. I'm sure, we're there. If you guys, I feel like my DMs are always open. I feel like I love when athletes and people ask questions. I love it. So feel free, I'm sure, to ask us questions, follow up. It was a lot of fun chatting it up with you guys and talking Taekwondo all the way to, should Quincy run or not? And had a lot of fun. Make sure to follow World's Greatest on all the social medias. And Bob will be back here. Who's the host? Is it a surprise host tomorrow night? Or are we?
Oh, Justin's coming back.
Justin's coming back tomorrow night, same place, same time. Justin hosting. He's locked in. Bob's got him wrapped around. He's got him, behind the computer screen for the rest. Now, so come back tomorrow night. We'll see if anybody's predictions are right tomorrow. It's kind of nice having the Olympics before you guys come on every night. So before we come on, so we can talk about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, make sure you guys, shout everybody out and World's Greatest on YouTube here and X and Instagram and all the places and get all the content you can.
Before we bounce, Kyle and Justin, do you guys want to do shout outs? We kind of like keep it open to. It can be family members, it can be brands, it can be whatever. Because Devin started this where he's like, no free shout outs, but let's just do a round of shout outs. What the hell?
Oh yeah, why not? I mean, I always gotta shout out the check on my chest. Super blessed to be sponsored by them, and in my personal opinion, the greatest brand out there. And just shout out to my family. If they're watching, Keith, Joyce, Garland, they're always my biggest supporters and everything else. And family, friends, everybody back home in Philly and everything else. The freight station is what I call them. That's my little collective. So shout out to everybody that shows love and everything. And it's always fun to get on and talk with great people and great company and everything. And so much love.
I really ain't got no shout outs. I see my coach is in here. He's been typing away. Shout out, coach. Shout out World's Greatest for having me. Thank you guys. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, the before we head out with our awkward ending, we do have tomorrow we have one guy locked in. Laquan Nairn is coming back. He flew to Paris to surprise Jana Woodruff. So he's in Paris and he's gonna come on live 1 a.m. Paris time. And we're gonna see who else I can get him to snag. I want to start rolling in with our Paris crew. Maybe, who knows? Maybe we'll get Ryan Krauser to pop in after some hardware gets handed over. We don't know, but that's what we're going to attempt to do. What's our lame exit, Clayton?
I feel like the lameness is us trying to figure out what the lame exit should be. So I feel like we just roll with the lame discussion of what the lame exit should be. That's the lame exit.
We have two new guys on though, and I think we need to find a new way to get out of the show. What is the ending of the show?
Well, the other day was just peace. Like we were just keeping it simple, keeping it clean, keeping it simple. Same time, same place. And enjoy your night and enjoy your Olympic experience all day tomorrow. It starts at like 3 a.m. and rolls through like 3 p.m. It's nothing better.
Perfect. Yeah.
All right, guys.
All right.
That's great.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, everybody. See you tomorrow.